What's up, you guys? Welcome back. It's Mr. Eddie Barber. I'm back with another video here for you today. We're gonna bring up the fade chart. I'm gonna draw some stuff. I'm gonna help you guys out so that you can get your fade game on point. In today's video, it's gonna be 5 things that you can do to improve your fades along with the tutorial. So we're gonna start with just some of the easy, quick things I wanna talk about right before we get started. As long as you know, this is your clipper. This just happens to be 357 Magnum from Caliper, and this is in the open position. And this is the closed position. So open is the long setting. It's gonna leave the hair longer. Closed is gonna be closed setting. That's gonna be the closer of the settings. That's gonna leave the hair shorter. Now, what I see most often than not, I see people that are leaving the head too much, attempting to do the scooping motion. Okay, so the C motion, that's kind of cool. That's great for certain situations when you wanna save time and you wanna use it. But when you're just getting started, if you're still a beginner, recognize that it's actually gonna be better for you not to do that. That's why we have our clipper guards. That's why we have our lever, so that we can maintain an exact distance. So if the manufacturer says that the distance on this is supposed to be this far apart, and you're manipulating that by holding it not flat, further away from the head, or leaving the head too much, then you're gonna be manipulating that distance to a degree where it's gonna be impacting you negatively. Okay, so I have a couple clipper guards here right now, and I just want to show you something. With the number 2, you're going to notice that flat is very easy to see where it is because you're not holding it, you're not tipping it away. You can see that pretty easy. However, this is the half guard, okay? And the half guard has a slight curve to it. It has a slight curved edge, right? So flat is obviously not going to be here because I'm off of the head, right? But flat is definitely going to be sort of on that curve. Now the same thing goes with your clipper blades. If it's just your clipper blade, okay, this one's pretty easy to see. This is actually a wall blade, and you're gonna see that it's very flat here, so it's very easy to hold this blade flat. But, okay, I went and grabbed the 50 cal because the 50 cal has a curved blade on it. Now if you see that where that curve is, that flat part of the blade, that's actually holding this blade flat. So putting any of your guards on, anything like that, that'd be number 1. Make sure you're holding it flat, and let's get started on this. Okay, I'm gonna begin by parting this kid's hair off. He wants to keep it really long on top. This is gonna be a disconnected. However, the number 2 thing that I wanna talk about is how do we keep that darkness above the parietal ridge so that we see that really smooth blend transition that you see in the beginning of this video. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna begin with the number 3, and we're gonna wipe out all that hair. I wanna just get that all off. That's actually a 3.5, that's on my Ostervolt. So all I'm using that for is just bulk removal. I want that gone and out of my way. Now, in order to build this weight, we need to work in a way that's smart. And in order to build this weight, we're going to use a certain technique. Now, what I like to do is it's working in between parameters. Now, a lot of barbers do things a lot differently, and I understand that, but what we're gonna start out with here is the 5-0 line. So if this was an entire head, okay, let's just say this is an entire head. All right, that's the 5-0 line. So 5Z, that's the 5-0 line. You can do that with your trimmer. And if you don't have a detachable clipper, you should probably look into one because it's seriously gonna save you a lot of time, and you're gonna be cutting hair a lot more efficiently if you choose to do that. And of course, my favorite detachable clipper right now is the Ostervolt. I've had it for 8 years. I've done plenty of reviews on it. Now, below that 5-0 line, we're gonna skin as usual, okay? So we're just gonna take our electric shaver, we're gonna wipe him all the way out. Now, a quick word when I'm using this electric shaver, as I get to this line, you're gonna see me start flicking, start losing tension, because I don't wanna create another harsh line in between here and here. So when I get near this line, I'm gonna start releasing pressure, possibly going down with the grain, and I might even begin using it on a little flicking kind of motion. Now, I know I just told you not to flick, but when it comes to the electric shaver, that's a lot different. You're gonna actually have to do a little bit of flicking to get it just right, and you're gonna save yourself time in this process. Then we're simply gonna begin. We're using the 50 cal clipper. I'm gonna put it all the way in the open position, and this clipper has notches on it, so this is gonna be really easy for you guys to follow. So with it all the way open, I'm gonna make this next guideline. So we're working between here and here. Okay, and once I've done that, I've defined my parameters. So this is how we build weight. This is number 2 in the process of the 5. So 2, how to build this weight and how to keep it right where you want it to be is going to be simply working within a parameter. So inside of that parameter, I'm going to open this up, and that's what this top line is. So this is simply just an open taper in length. I'm going to click it one time, and I'm going to begin keeping it on an angle, working in a crisscross sort of pattern, okay, as I stay right around below where I went. Once I'm done and I'm satisfied that I've cut everything, I'm going to click it one more time down, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, crisscross pattern, moving back and forth. And you're going to notice that even though the line's down here that we were working on, we're gradually getting rid of it, because what does a taper do? It gets longer, right? Nice and evenly. So it's up to nothing and it's getting longer. So I continue that process, moving down in clicks. Next click. All right, working in the same spot. I'm crossing, I'm keeping it flat. And the last click, boom, you're gonna notice that all this is wiped out. I'm gonna have a really clean fade from skin to my open taper line. And now I really wanna start to be careful. I'm gonna jump to the open number 1. Open number 1, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna begin getting rid of this line by creating a secondary line. Now, you're not really gonna see this line, it's very faint in this particular haircut because of the fact that that hair is so short. It's already at a number 3, so we're really gonna be able to get the majority of this blended out in this step. And once we've done that, we're gonna we're gonna do the exact same process. One click down, one click down, one click down, and we're staying within our parameters. And then we're just gonna do a little follow-up with the half guard, which of course we skipped because we put our guide in with the open taper, remember? So the open taper, and then we jump to the 1, so we skipped the half guard. Now, the way that I'm able to keep that weight and keep that the way I want it to keep it is by using that half guard and just using it carefully. If I was to jump straight to the half guard, I'd probably have a nice smooth blend, a good transition, but I would wind up causing probably a little bit more transition than I actually want. I want to keep a little bit of weight. I want this to show, and I want this to show well. So once I'm done with this step, I can go on to the 1 1/2, and I can just wipe out anything that's above that, and you're gonna see that that is gonna be able to get rid of this blend in this particular situation. But in other situations, you might actually have to go up to the 2. But in this particular situation, I was able to execute and get this done with skin, open taper, gradually closing it down, jumping to my number 1, coming back to the half, then going on to my 1.15. Now, I did it out of order in order to save time, but if you actually see the steps that I took, skin, 5-0, open taper, number 1, open. So 1 open to 1 closed, and then I still had the chance to work my 0.5 open, 0.5 closed, open taper, closed taper. So 5-0 closed taper, open taper, 5.5 closed, 0.5 open, 1 closed, 1 open. So it still goes in order. I realize this could be confusing if you're kind of new at this, but yeah, it still goes in order. So now I'm gonna take a couple minutes here, and I'm gonna just do a little design on this cut. But what I'm gonna tell you guys, when it comes time to do your designs, if you want them to come out clean, try to go through, try to just make it smooth and clean with a very skinny, thin line, so that later, if you want to make it thicker in certain spots, you can almost move it over just a little bit. So if you're making your little design, and you know, we got something like this, okay, if I'm making this little design, I'm gonna make these skinny as possible so that when I go back through, well, if I have to thicken it up on this bottom half, I have the space to do it. And then if it turns out that I was a little off on that top, well, I'll do the thickening on that at the top of that, right? And then I'm able to manipulate, I'm able to move the line a little bit, and I'm able to keep it clean. So now when we hold the trimmers in one way, okay, we're gonna have that nice smooth cut, okay, and you're gonna see that line, majority of that line is coming from the top of that hair. However, there's 2 sides to that, so we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna flip it upside down, and we're gonna clean it up back on the way through that way. Plenty of people are really good at doing designs and stuff like that, And it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with doing fades and everything else that I'm always trying to teach. But this guy here, he just showed me a picture and he asked me for this particular design, which I did and I'm happy with, and he was happy with it too. So yeah, that's kind of how that went. I'm using the Caliber 38 Special trimmer. And before we go in and shave it, I really want you guys to take the time to make sure that the skin is prepared properly. And that means that we're gonna put some shaving cream on there. We're gonna put some shave gel on there. We might do a hot towel. I didn't show any of that, but yeah, make sure that you do before you go in there and use straight razor, because it's so easy to cut people during designs. Even when you try your best not to, it's very, very easy to. And more often than not, when you cut somebody during a design, it's usually not a slice. If it's a slice, that's just a total mistake. That should not be happening. However, if it's a circular droplet of blood, more often than not, that's coming from a dull razor that's just simply ripping a piece of hair out at the root. Now, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that our blade is sliding, make sure that it's sharp. So you need to recognize when your blades are going dull, and you need to recognize if it's a dull one right out of the box, throw it out, get rid of it, because the only thing that's gonna happen with a dull blade is you're gonna cut a client, you're gonna make a mistake, and you're gonna make your work harder. So don't do that to yourself. Make sure that you have a nice sharp blade and you've prepared the skin. Currently, I got the link in the description for the Astras. I'm using the Astras. They seem to be working all right, but I'm not really 100% happy with just about any of the double edge razors. They're just, I've experimented with just about every single one of them, and Astras are about the best that I've found so far. So we're gonna wanna make sure that when we're doing designs, also, you wanna make sure that you know your strokes. That's really gonna help you. So freehand, reverse freehand, backhand, reverse backhand. And I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add a little bit of color to it. I got my little spray gun, it's still working well. It was something like $30 on eBay. We've talked about it in other videos. I really like this little gun. I think it does a great job, and it's gonna help me to darken that hair above the design so that I get a little bit more contrast in the fade and the design together. And I can enhance his edge slightly also without having to cut too deep into his edge. So yeah, it's fun to do. I really enjoy doing it, and anybody who doesn't do designs, you know, you really should give it a try. It's fun. And I'm using the circular cap. I use it off my hairspray, or sometimes I use it off of some other circular cap that I might have, and I use that to get that little perfect circle, you know, just because it's something that's available and I just happen to have it standing right by me. So again, now we're gonna repeat the fade process on this other side. So once again, let's take you over here. We started with skin, we moved up to this line. We flicked out and we've made it so that between skin and 5-0 line, we have no line. So we have a smooth fade from skin and a 5-0 line, and we have no line. Next step, open taper line, okay? So we put this next step in, let's call this one the open taper line. Okay, open taper line is in. We are keeping it flat, and we're keeping it slightly tipped, and we will do the click, one click down, staying just below where we were, one click down, one click down, staying just below where we were. One click down, staying just below where we were. One click down, just below where we were. Crisscrossing, keeping it flat, and making sure that we maintain those angles. Don't leave the head, don't try to do too much crazy stuff, and you're gonna see that this line is very easy to remove, especially if you're using something like the 50 cals, because these blades are set really close. I set them really close. I have a setup video on it, and if you need to view it, go ahead and take a look back at that video where I showed everybody how to zero gap this, the 38 Special, and the 357, so that we're all on the same field, and when you get out there and you try to do this, you're able to wipe out that line. However, the blades on this clipper are something sort of special. There's something completely different about this top blade, that it just is very, very thin, very fine, and very easy to wipe out these skin lines. I have zero trouble with it. So once we've began this process and we finished it, we're gonna just simply jump to the number one. Again, we're skipping the half. And what we should have by the time we get to the number one is a perfectly clean fade from skin to open taper. Now, we're simply gonna go up, we're gonna make that next guideline with a one, and we're gonna repeat the exact same process. So fully open is where I put the line, one click, Just one click brings me down below, keeping it flat, crisscrossing back and forth, attempting to pick up as much hair as I can. And if you notice on this young man's hair, on the right side of his head, his hair is actually a little bit thicker than the left side of his hair. So that just means that the fade process, you know, we're just gonna have to work at it a little bit differently, but we're gonna use the exact same process. We're just gonna have to work at it a little bit harder to get the blend perfect on this side. So once we've done the number one, of course there's gonna be some residual because we skipped the 0.5. So we will just return to the 0.5 and we're gonna wipe out what's left of that line. Now once we've wiped out what's left of that line, we can jump over to the 1 1/2 and we're gonna clean up anything that resides above that. So where we went with the 1, we're just gonna use the 1.5. 1.5 open. And we're gonna begin the exact same process, clicking it down, clicking it down, clicking it down, staying a little bit lower, staying a little bit lower, staying a little bit lower. Now, if you've done that and you follow that process, you follow those steps, you're not gonna have any issues. You're gonna come up with a smooth blend and you can deploy this at any area of the head. A lot of people ask me, hey, can you do another haircut on a taper? Can you do another, well, basically you can deploy this anywhere. So if you wanted to use this exact same technique to do a blowout, to do a taper, you certainly can. You can use it to do a neck taper. You can use it to do a temple fade. You can use this however you need to use this, because all this really is, I've blown it up, I've made it big so that you can see it, but all this takes place over a very small area on the head sometimes. Sometimes it's a really steep fade, which is where we're keeping our weight. So we're keeping our weight in that steep fade and we're following those steps, we're keeping it clean. So we're up to number 3 or 4, I'm not sure. So we've got holding it flat, super important, following your steps, super important, having a process, super important, and making sure that you follow that process and you stick to it. The crisscross, that'd be number 4. We wanna go crisscross because we're gonna wind up picking up more hair against the grain. You need to pick up that hair that's against the grain in order for your clipper to cut as efficiently as possible, and that's how it's gonna work the best for you. So at times we'll cut with the grain when we wanna keep more hair, and at times we will cut against the grain so that we can take more hair. But we wanna be careful because we wanna keep some of that weight. We wanna keep that fade looking good so you can see right where it's at in certain situations, because I easily could have faded this too high. With that number 3 on top, he would have just looked like I shaved him on the sides and there really was no good blend there. So, you know, it's really important that we define our parameters and we work with inside of those parameters. Now, we're gonna go on, we're gonna cut the top. I'm just taking a single mohawk section down the center, and I always hold it up. I make eye contact with the client and I just ask them, is this enough hair? Is this how much you want cut off? Do you want me to cut some more? And that's really important. And then once you're done with that mohawk section, I already have my length right there. Now, what I'm doing is I'm holding up the hair, and you're gonna see something similar to this. Depends how much you cut off. Okay, we're gonna work this in sections. I'm taking it from my middle guide, and I'm just taking this out. So all I'm doing, if I'm looking at the top of the head, is I have my middle, which I've already cut. That was my mohawk section. I'll go just beside it on the right, and little by little, I'm picking up sections here, section here, section here, and all I'm really concerned about is getting this section done until it's all the way done. Okay? Then I'll jump one more over. I'll extend it. So what actually happens when you use this technique is you're working with 2 guidelines. You have your stationary guideline, which is your mohawk. That's where you're gonna be able to see easily and transfer it slightly one section over, slightly one section over to the left, slightly one section over to the right, until you have it all the way done. Now also what's happening is the hair that you're directing as you're cutting it, it's coming back with you and it's causing a traveling guideline to occur. So you're working with 2 guidelines to cut the top. It's super easy. I have plenty of videos on it. However, when we're cutting the top in 90-degree format, just a quick tip for you is you wanna make sure that you're following the curvature of the scalp. So when your hair is done being cut, basically the shape should reflect the same shape roughly as the shape of the scalp. So if the shape of the scalp is curved like that, that means that your fingers are gonna reflect that you're gonna reflect that. Everywhere you hold it up, that's where you're gonna reflect it, because that's what a 90-degree is. The 90-degree haircut is in fact the only haircut where all the hair is cut to the exact same length. Now, because you've done the majority of your hair cutting standing behind your client, working it all the way back, we are gonna cross-check after we're done with that. So we're working horizontally, we'll stand vertically as we did when we first cut that, and we're gonna go back through and we'll cut that. So it's as simple as that. All I really did was replay the clip here so you could see it again and you can get a better feel for exactly what I'm doing. It's very simple. I see a lot of barbers struggle when it comes to scissor work because everybody wants to learn how to do a fade, but nobody wants to put in the work, because there's actually a lot more about this barber thing that you gotta learn about other than just doing fades. So it isn't all fades. There's so many other avenues to it. So that's your scissor, that's number 5, and that's the technique I always use for the top. It never failed me yet. I'm 17 years strong and it's working out just fine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned something. And if you did, please leave it in the comments. I'm gonna leave a little link to the Caliber Clipper Company. You guys can check them out for a limited time only. You can get them for 15% off if you use the code Eddie. So head on over to caliberprocorp.com, use that code Eddie, and get your 15% off if this is something that you're interested in. And please, if there's anything that I left off the table, anything that you felt I could have explained better, anything that you feel I'm not helping you with, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to get back with you. I'd love to chat with you. And if anybody's going to the premiere show, please let me know. I'm pretty hyped about it, and I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be working with the Barber Strong people, and we know Barber Strong has the freshest capes, freshest jackets in the industry, and they're just really good people. So if you haven't tried them out, might wanna go ahead and look into them. Go to Barber Strong and check those boys out. What do you guys think of the shirts? All right, I got a customer over here. He made them. He put this little logo together. I think it looks pretty cool. And he also got the YouTube Barber Academy going on the back. You know, it's really nice of him. He came over here and he blessed me with it. So super, super cool dude. If anybody's interested in having a shirt made, go ahead and holler at me in the comments. I can put you on game with this guy and he can make a shirt for you however you want it, whatever you got. He can print it on a shirt and he can send it to you. Until my next video, I'll see you guys. I'm out of here. Peace. If you guys are interested in any of the equipment you see me using in this video, you can head over to caliberprocorp.com. Go ahead and select what you want, check out their stuff, and when you're ready to check out, you're gonna go to that little discount code and you're gonna type the word Eddie, E-D-D-I-E. That'll give you 15% off plus free shipping on orders over $50 domestic. So thank you guys so much again for watching my channel, and I'll catch you guys in another video. I'm out.